My ex-wife tricked me into legally becoming the father of her third child. Now she's demanding that I pay for her college after I posted about supporting my stepdaughter through college. I legally have 3 children with my ex, Adam, Chris, and Sophie. Biologically, the first 2 children are mine and the youngest is the result of my wife's infidelity. I discovered this the day when Sophie was 2 years old and we had to rush Sophie to the emergency room. I filed for divorce 2 months later. I got 50-50 custody of my own children, but since Sophie was legal mine, I had to pay child support for her and was very bitter and resentful about it. I tried to fight it at first but in the end decided to suck it up to save myself the stress. But I made it very clear to my ex that outside of child support I would take no other responsibility for the girl, and would shut down any attempts at being her father, but I would make the effort to still be polite to Sophie. After some time I learned to trust again and remarried a wonderful woman, who made it very clear that she and her daughter were a package deal. I accepted this and did everything I could to try and be there for my stepdaughter Katie. Aside from the typical ups and downs, I would say I managed to make a great family life for myself. We'd have family nights, I attended most after-school events, took my family on fun vacations, put my sons through school, and paid for their apartments and cars. They were on their own for gas money. Chris is expected to graduate this coming summer and I made a silly post on social media about how relieved I was going to be that I only had one more kid to put through school left. A couple of days later I got a message from my ex, asking me to pay for Sophie's college expenses on my own since the pandemic has made money tight. I asked her what she meant and referred to my post, and I reminded her that my legal obligation to Sophie ended the day she turned 18 and that I was talking about Katie. My ex was furious and demanded to know why I was willing to pay for Katie and not Sophie since neither of them was related to me. I countered by saying that I knew upfront Katie wasn't my biological child and agreed to care for her, instead of being conned into doing it like I was for Sophie. After that, I got a call from Sophie asking what she did to make me hate her so much, and to leave her feeling so excluded. I told her softly that I didn't hate her and that nothing about this situation was her fault, but the simple truth is that it wasn't personal, I'm just not her father. Since then my sons have told me that Sophie was becoming really depressed. My ex is blaming me but I don't see what I have to do with it. The kids know why I divorced their mother. My wife suggested therapy and for the longest time I never felt like I needed it, but after everything new that's happened, I've decided that talking to a professional won't hurt. I thought I buried my anger and hurt toward my ex years ago, but now new information has been revealed that's just making me angry all over again. Not too long after my initial fight with my ex, she and Sophie got into a fight that ended up so bad that Sophie was kicked out of the home. Sophie called her brothers and they in turn called me, and she is currently staying with my wife, Katie, and me. Apparently, in spite of my efforts to maintain a boundary, my ex kept telling Sophie that if she was well behaved and did good in school, that I would think of her as a daughter again. It was my ex's way of getting Sophie to be obedient. When I made my post, Sophie thought that I was finally giving her the validation that my ex had always promised, and when I didn't it was just chaos. Sophie called my ex horrible names and demanded to know who her biological dad was. My ex refused and told her if she was going to be disrespectful she had to live elsewhere. Some of my friends suggested that in spite of Sophie's blood type, she could still be my daughter, and that was really starting to get to me. Now that Sophie was staying with me I took some of her DNA and sent it off for testing, and couldn't believe the results. That I sent it again for a second time. To my shock, Sophie and I are indeed related. She's just not my daughter. The bad feelings are all starting to come back to me again, but this new information is just putting me in a bad place again. I don't even know how or when to break the news to Sophie or how to even confront my ex about any of this. I feel like such a fool.